Welcome back to the Owl Arcade. And what on earth is going on down here? This looks more like a workshop than it does an arcade. And yeah, you would be correct. But just recently, Tapper developed a problem. The audio was starting to get a bit of a loud buzz to it. The picture was going a little bit shaky. I didn't want to turn it on. I didn't want to play it because it was starting to act up in that way, which is a darn shame because I absolutely love this game. Absolutely love it. I play this quite a lot. So I decided to open it up and take a look at the suitcase. Because typically what you'll find is if you've got that hum problem, it's like a 60 hertz hum in the background. It's probably because of the suitcase. This is a kind of a power regulator, and it's got these two big caps on here. And if those two caps start to go out, you can get that kind of problem going on. I was really opening it up just to go after the suitcase and switch out those caps. But what I found when I opened this thing up, because actually I haven't opened this and looked inside really since I acquired it some months ago now. And I was a little bit disturbed by what I saw. It was absolutely filthy on the inside here, absolutely filthy. And randomly, there was like just a few handfuls of packing peanuts thrown inside there as well. Here's a picture of the amp to give you some kind of idea. I couldn't even see what it was. It was that coated in nastiness. And the rest of the insides weren't really any much better. So what started out as a quick, let's just pull out the suitcase and replace the caps, has kind of turned into a little bit more of an exercise than that. Yeah, we've pulled out the fan. There's the fan. I don't think that fan's ever worked because when I opened it up, you've got fuses under here. This is kind of like a cardboard fuse cover. The cardboard fuse cover was wedged down in one of the blades of the fan, so that probably was not spinning. Here is the amp, which, as I showed you, was absolutely filthy. So I have refurbished the amps, got new caps, reflowed the headers. It was producing good sound apart from the hum, so I haven't bothered doing anything with the actual amps themselves. They seem to be good. Here is the game board triple stack. This is quite a monster. This is a lot of game going on here. And as you can see, I've fully cleaned all of the boards. I've actually gone ahead and replaced the ribbon cables as well because these old things tend to sort of delaminate. Let me see if I can find one that's falling apart here. No, sort of. This one's particularly bad. You can see how it's starting to delaminate there and falling apart. I've got replacement ribbon cables, and the way I've fitted these is to kind of go back on themselves. Common sense would dictate that you kind of put them connector on so the cable goes down, so it's in that way. But I put these in kind of so they do a bit of a backflip because it takes a bit of the strain off of the actual connection point here where the cable's crimped into the header, and saves a little bit of space as well because it curls around nicely. So that's what I've done there. I think this was a little bit of a puzzle. I did document this when I took it apart, how the metal plates went, because you've got 3 metal plates there and 3 game boards. And I put it back together the way that I found it, I think, but we'll find out. But it's nice and clean. I'll come back to that. Here is the speakers. The grills were a little bit bashed up, especially along the bottom part of the grills that are closer to the floor. I guess they've been kicked a couple times. Here is the bracket that holds the game boards in. As you can see, some bright spark has munched that up. Here is the power supply. This has been fully gone over. I have replaced basically everything with a big kit from Arcade Parts and Repair. So transistor, bottle caps, axial caps, headers. All the headers have been replaced. These 2 chips here have been socketed and replaced. There's a couple of power regulators here as well. Which ones were they? I think they were these 2. They've been replaced. Oh, and the pots as well. These two pots controlling the voltages. So they've all been replaced, and I've done a kit to replace the original battery, which had been replaced once before by the look of things, but it didn't stop that second battery from also leaking a bit and trying to corrode out my board. So as you can see, I've had a little bit of a problem here with some corrosion, but I've tidied this up nicely and I've fitted a lithium battery kit. I did have to modify the holder a little bit, as you can see here. Had to just cut a plastic tab off so that I could then bend the leg that's underneath the holder out and down so that the spacing was more correct and it would sit flush with the board. So a little bit of a mod required, but overall I'm pretty pleased with this. I'm very much looking forward to getting this connected up and getting the voltages dialed in. All right, back to this monitor. So this is not the original monitor, but I was originally looking to see what model is this. Well, if you believe the sticker just in there, it is a 19K. I can't get focus on there. It's a 19K 4953 is what it says. But if you've worked with monitors at all, especially monitor chassis, you will know that just looking at that, that is actually a G07. And indeed, if I look at some of the stickering on, where's it gone now? On the metal shroud here, this is indeed a G07. So somebody has replaced this, which is fine, because these things don't last forever, they do go bad. But interestingly, I guess they've done a tube swap and the chassis swap out into the what's likely to be the original frame, so that it fits inside the cocktail cabinet properly. But first, let's finish tidying up the inside of this cabinet. Now, as you can see, I've pulled everything out. I've just finished pulling out all of the P-clips that hold in the wiring harnesses. And I'm going to take a little bit of simple green to the earth straps because they are actually stapled in. So I'm not going to try pulling those out. I'm going to leave those in place and just give them a quick clean with some simple green, which I've got just there. And I am going to take my sander to the inside here because I don't really want to get this wet and get moisture in the wood. But what I do want to do is tidy this up a little bit. And it is a little bit rough, it's a bit raised. And I think that's because the previous owner said that they had been regularly spraying it down with electronic cleaner or contact cleaner. I don't know why they would randomly do that unless they were like taking connectors off and cleaning connectors, but why would you just randomly do that regularly as regular maintenance? I don't know. But I suspect what happened is they just hosed this thing down every so often, and it got moisture in the wood here and dirt, and they were a smoker. This was in their garage. I found some spots where there's, you know, nastiness going on, tar and whatnot. So I've cleaned all of the harnesses up already. They're all upstairs. Just a little bit of Dawny dish soap on those. Give them a good old clean. And we just need to finish off the inside here, and then we should be good to start reassembling this beast. So I'm going to put you down. You don't need to see me sanding. I'm just going to use my oscillating sander because it can get into there and get in the corners. Use the vac and then suck all the dust out and show you the finished product. Back in a jiff. Ta-da! Just a very light sanding, just to take the crud off the top there, and it's made one heck of a difference. I'm pretty happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is I've cleaned all of the P-clips that hold the harnesses in, so I'm going to reinstall those back in their original positions. I took plenty of photographs before I pulled them out, so I know where they go and in which orientation. So I'm going to do that right now. There we go. They're all in. They've all been cleaned and then put back in their appropriate positions. What I think I'm going to do next is put in the main harness. Let's do that. While I'm here, let me just tell you about something. I found littered in the bottom here a bunch of fasteners that I wasn't really quite sure where they were from. And I found these wing screws. Now, I didn't know where these were from. I found 3 of them. This partially busted up one, and 2 more intact ones just kind of lounging around in the bottom of the cab there. And what I found is the rest of this one, it was actually in here. So I knew that the wing screws were to hold the control panels in place. Now, unfortunately, it looks like they got stripped out pretty badly. And somebody had just simply used these screws, which are obviously not the same pitch thread as the old wing screws here. So in forcing these screws into the control panel holes here and here, they messed up the threads. So what I've done is just cleaned out those threads with my tap. I measured the thread pitch, which is an 832. So I just ran this in and out of the holes and just recut that thread. So hopefully, if I can find some replacement wing screws, they should now hold nicely. I'll have to be a bit gentle about them because I've probably weakened that thread a little bit in those control panels. So my challenge now is to find some replacement wing screws from somewhere. Before I worry about that, let's get that lower mounting bracket, the little wooden support there for the game board, back in position. Ta-da! Beautiful! And here we have fitted out some of the other bits and pieces. We've got the power board back in there, the audio amp, the switch, the fan, the main harness, some of the other bits and pieces, the interlock switch for the door, and all of that jazz. But before we go ahead and fit everything back in here and put too much weight in here, I've noticed something odd going on with that foot. It's not supposed to be there. It's too far inboard compared to this one. So, we're going to pop this up on its side and see what's going on there. Oh dear. Well, no massive surprise there. Looks like this foot's probably been smashed off at some point and it's ripped out all of the, this is particle board. It's ripped it out, it's damaged it. So we're going to fix that up and put this foot back where it's supposed to be, just like that one, right up in the corner there. Let's mix up some Bondo, whip this foot off and fix this bottom area. Haha, consider yourself Bondoed. I'm trying to do this in one shot. I wouldn't normally put it on this thick, but I'm under a time crunch because today is Saturday, it's late Saturday. It's 6:15. And tomorrow on Sunday at midnight, the members only Overtime Arcade Discord Game of the Week ends. And the Game of the Week happens to be Tapper. Of course it is. Of course it is. Because my machine's out of commission and I'm behind schedule working on it. And as you know, Bondo is a thermoset material that cures via an exothermic reaction, meaning heat. So we can rapidly reduce the curing time by applying a little more heat. I mixed this a little bit light on the curing agent so that I could really work it while it was nice and sloppy down into the fibers there, right down in the pits of those holes. So I'm going to give it a quick blast with the old heat gun just to add some heat into the additional heat into the process up front, and then that should cure pretty quickly. We're going to come back to this tomorrow when hopefully that's all lovely and cured. We'll sand it back, we'll drill a couple holes in there, get the foot back on, get all the guts back in, monitor back in. I'm not going to bother doing anything with the monitor right now. I just need to get this all back in together so I can play the game and set a high score. And fingers crossed, yeah, Bondo fingers, fingers crossed, everything works, because I've had this thing fully apart and done, as I've explained, quite a lot of work on the game board, which has gone missing. Where is it? Ah, there we go. The game board, the power supply, the suitcase, everything's been gone through in some way, shape or form. So again, fingers crossed, we'll come back to this tomorrow and it will work. We'll see. Ta-da! Well, I didn't do it in one. I had to sand this back. I used some 80 grit on my oscillating tool, because the triangular bit gets nice up in the corners there. So I used 80 grit to sand that all back, gave it another coat of Bondo, and then used some 120 grit of the same kind of stuff to finish it off. This is now ready for us to mark up where the holes need to go. I actually had to do a little bit of straightening of this here leg, took it out to the garage, gave it a beating, straightened this up, but that's going to sit just nicely in the corner. So we'll take a punch where the holes need to go in the corners and drill some holes. One thing you'll notice is I've started putting the leg levelers on these legs, and unfortunately this one goes in a little bit wonky. Let me show you. That doesn't look all that happy, does it? It's a bit wonky. So what needs to happen is that needs straightening out, and what I'm not going to do is go wailing on it while it's attached to the cabinet, because that is the very quick and sure way of damaging the wood. I'm going to disconnect this. I've just got a couple more fasteners to take out. We're going to take this off, we're going to take it up to the garage, we're going to clamp the leg in a vise, and then I have a kind of rusty old leg leveler up in the garage, which I will put in there. I don't mind wailing on that. And hopefully it just needs a little bit of persuasion to straighten up. So we'll go do that, and then we'll be ready to fit all of this stuff back on. Be right back. Well, how about that then? Looks a bit better, doesn't it? Straightened up nicely. Just had to give it a little bit of a talking to up in the garage. And now we need to get these holes drilled and this leg back on. Let's get cracking. All right, first of all, we're going to punch where we need to drill. There's one. There's two. And then there's three. There's our little pilot marks there to guide our drill. And we need to find an appropriately sized drill bit so that we don't go too big. Still give it something to bite on. I'm going to go 1/8. Seems to match the shank of the fastener quite well. And then I don't want to go too deep, of course. Oh, I think that's got it. That's biting. That's a good thing. I'm not going to over tighten these. Just going to pull them snug. That's snug. That's snug. We're snug. 3 fasteners snugged. All right. Final bit of vacuuming up down here, and then this is ready to pop back up on its feet. All right, there we go. So now it's time to get the suitcase popped in there. Coin door stuff and the speakers, then the game board, right? Cool, let's do it. Perfect, that's all lined up. There we go. That was mildly painful, but we got there. So I'm missing some hardware, namely these washers, and I'll have to source some suitably sized washers from somewhere after the fact. Just had to look at one of my old pictures I took when I was deconstructing this thing. Those 4 went on the top there. But again, it doesn't really matter, that's a rail, it's common, so they could really go anywhere, but I've put them back where they were. There's one other thing I'll point out. I didn't show you this, but I had to do a little bit of a repair job there. It had previously been repaired, but it was just bare wire showing. So now it's got some heat shrink on it, and I feel a lot better about that. Alrighty, we've got a final power cable connection. Boop, connected up here. And I've been fiddling around with these ground straps. Now, I don't know exactly how these went originally, these yellow ground straps here. One of them was just kind of floating around loose, or two of them were floating around loose in the cabinet. So clearly somebody's played with this in the past and also forgot where they go. But here's how I'm running these. The whole idea is that you're supposed to ground strap anything metal that's otherwise isolated in the wood. So this shorter piece here, I'm going to connect up to the cash box coin door. I've added the longer strap that I had onto the control panel here, so it's got a touch point there. Runs down onto the ground stud. This one here is clearly a clip onto the chassis, and I've got like 3 of those available to me because I've got some ground wires here that also have those on. I've got 2 of them, in fact. So I think those 2 go on the speakers, and then this one is going to be left for the monitor. So that's what we're going to do there. And then obviously this other strap here runs, oops, sorry, all the way to this control panel. So everything that needs to be, you know, grounded, which is again otherwise isolated within the wooden cabinet, is connected up, or will be at least when we get everything else shoved back in. So let's keep going. All right, let's get these speakers in, and these poor grills being, you know, that high above the floor, I guess I've seen a little bit of a beating, so I've tried to straighten these out as best I can. They were way worse than that. I'm not going to worry too much about those right now. I'm just going to get these mounted back up in their respective openings and get them connected up. All right. Now we need to remember how these were connected up, so I'm going to reference a picture or 2 that I took on my phone. Coin door and box are in. There are 3, 6, 7, 8 fasteners. 1 at the top, 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and 1 right in the middle underneath there. So you've got to kind of snake your hand underneath and feel how to get that one put on. Maybe I could have maybe left the fan out, which is right underneath there. And yeah, actually that would have been an easier way of doing it, because the fan fastens on from the outside. All right, well, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But we've got everything battened down. I have connected this ground strap to here, which is where it was before, and this one's going to go to the game board. So I just need to tighten this down, and then we're going to figure out what to do with this. So it was previously stapled up the top here. This is a little shield, so that if you come in through the coin door, you're not touching the business end of the monitor, which is going to be lurking down there. So I do want to attach this back up. I have given it a bit of a clean, but this is really the best I can get it. So I'm going to pull these staples out and then go grab my staple gun, and we're just going to re-staple it back up on there. What we're going to do is take these fasteners out, lift the entire skirt up over the top, staple it in, put it back down. Let's do that. So it's basically there, isn't it? Where's my gun? There's one. Oh, it's a bit wonky. Never mind. It's in there. There we go. Beautiful. Just how it's meant to be. All right, let's get those fasteners back in. Cool. Let's get this coin door connected up to here. All right. And really, I need to decide what to do with these ground straps as well, because I kind of thought that they would go with the speakers, but there wouldn't be any point in that because you wouldn't get metal to metal contact if you use the clip. I'm a little bit confused as to actually what they're for, so I'm going to consult the manual if I can find it online and see if that gives me any clues. The best I can figure is that these actually do go onto the monitor chassis somehow once that is back in place. So, okay, they look a bit short to me, but maybe that's why they were kind of hanging around loose in there previously, because somebody opened this up and they kind of pulled off and they didn't realize that they had to go back on. So let's get the game board in and connect it up. Actually, after the game board's in and connected up, we should do a quick test to see if we get sound, if the game's booting, before we bother to try and attach that monitor back up, because that's kind of heavy. So this one's quite important. This is the main power harness connector that goes on the back side of the board, around the corner there. I don't know if I showed you this before, but this is what the old connector looked like. It obviously seen some heat and some damage, but it also has a key. So I'm going to have a look back at my photos to figure out where that key goes, pop it into this connector, and that will make sure that we get it connected the right way around and don't fry this beautifully refurbished board. Jolly good. So from our pictures that we took during deconstruction, we figured out that it goes in hole 6, if you can see that, hole 6. So we can now get this confidently connected up to the game board. Great stuff. Everything is connected up with the exception of the monitor over there. So a bit nervous. I've done an awful lot of work to this cabinet, an awful lot of work, and I'm a little bit nervous what's going to happen. So, well, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to plug it in and we're going to hit the power switch and we're going to see if we get noise or smoke. We are plugged in. We're about to find out if we get pops, bangs, squeals, or whether this is all functioning as expected. Fingers crossed. We're going down for the power switch and we are on. Beautiful. Uh-oh. Oh no. Not hearing any game noises. That's not good. That's not good at all. Oh man. Okay. Doesn't look like the board's getting power, which is interesting, because it should be. Maybe it's not getting the right voltage because we have changed out those pots. Okay, so here we are with the schematic, and I'm interested in this part here, which is the connector end, which I had to replace, which plugs into the board stack and gives it all of the different power rails. I've checked to make sure that this is actually pinned correctly, because obviously I had to transfer from the old busted up connector to the nice new one, and I have wired it up correctly. There is no problems there. And so what I'm going to do now is read off the voltages and tweak the pots on the power supply to get me in the target ranges. So we've got our negative lead on orange and white, or yellow and white, on pin 20. And we've got our positive lead on pin 18, which is orange, which is plus 12 volts. So there's our yellow white, pin 20, which is a ground. And then there's the 12 volt, positive 12 volt rail, orange wire, pin 18. That's how we've got this connected. We're set to volts DC, so let's pop this on. Great, not far off. We're at 11.96. Ideally that needs to be somewhere between 12 and 12.2. So we are going to adjust with our insulated screwdriver variable resistor 101, if I can find the slot. There we go, there's the slot. And if I tweak that ever so slightly, all right, bringing you back into range, I'm going to slot it bang on at 12.1. That's right in the middle. Okay, now let's get this connected up onto a 5 volt rail. Okay, what does this say? Plus 5 volt rail. Pin 2, pin 3, pin 4, and also pin 5. So we can really take our pick of any of these red wires. So I've just chosen pin 2. Could have done 2, 3, 4, or 5, any one of these 4 red ones here, and we will check all 4 to make sure we're getting 5 volts at each of those. We should be able to power on and get plus 5 volts-ish. Yeah, that's awesome. 5.1 is about where we want to be because this power supply is not currently under load. I've already adjusted that rail, measuring across this capacitor down here to get me in my 5-volt range. And so I'm just going to, because I'm pedantic like that, I'm going to tweak this a little bit if I can get my screwdriver in the hole. Superb. Right on the nose. So there's really no reason why this shouldn't be working, given that we've got 5 volts on that rail, and I would assume we've got 5 volts on the others as well. But let me just check each of these in turn. I might just have to put you down a second, or put that there, put you there. You can follow the meter, and I will go to each of these pins. It's jumped up again, good lord. All right, so it should be 5 volts here. Should be 5 volts here. Should be 5 volts here. And that's really it. We've checked our 5 volts and 12 volt rails. I'm just looking at the schematic again. This all looks good. I don't know why we aren't getting a booting board. Maybe I had the volume pot turned right down accidentally, and I'm just being silly. Let's try tweaking that up after we've plugged this back in. All right, we're connected back up around the back there. This is a volume pot here, which I'm just gonna adjust. Oh, if I can get to it. There we go. So, well, it wasn't horribly down. Set it to somewhat midway there. I didn't put it into test mode accidentally, did I? Nada. Should be getting something. The voltages are good. What now? We could always try fitting the old ribbon connectors. Let's give that a try. Haha, I'm an idiot, of course. You are never going to get any sound out of this thing if the speakers aren't connected up. So, hey, I've put these connections back on now. I have switched out the ribbon cables just in case. So let's try this again, shall we? On we go. No sounds heard yet. What on earth have I done to my game board? It's nothing. It's deed. Audio board is dead. Don't think it's my audio amp, because we're getting a pop from the speakers. Let's see if we can hook this monitor up and see if we're actually getting any signal. Right, we're kind of rigged. Managed to get everything connected back here. We've got short runs of cables here, so we've had to overcome that a little bit. But let's give it a go and see what we get on the screen. Oh, there was some exciting high voltage. And we've got brightness, but we don't have any image. So what we have here is a dead game board for whatever reason. So let's pull it out there and check it over. Reseat, chips, all of that jazz.
2 hours later.
Look at that. We're back in, folks. So not only have I reflowed all of the header connectors for these ribbon cables, and there's 5 of them, 3 on this side, 2 on this side. Every single board, desoldered those header pins and resoldered them with some good quality leaded solder. So we're all hooked up now, and we are about to test this out and see if I fixed it. So here we go. Pulling the analog switch, 3, 2, 1. We've got power, we've got HV, we've got a pop, the amp's working. Let's see what happens to this screen, if anything. Tube's warming up. Oh, yeah! Nice. Sweet. Okay. I think we're fixed. Let me pop you down a second and just run a couple of these self-tests and see what happens. Okay, it's kind of difficult to see. Self-diagnostics, why not? Okay, I'm guessing that self-diagnostics passed. So let's catch it and move left. Let's try sounds. Nice. What else we got? Cool. Looks like we might be working, which is rather nice. Yeah, got that tip. Toss that mug. Guzzle that beer. All right, cool. I think this is good to turn off and get everything back in. Let's do it. What I really want is for this to be at about the right height so I don't have to manhandle it too much. And I think if I kind of place it up on this here box, shop rags, I'm not going to be that far off. So let's see if we can't manhandle this a little bit and just pop that there. I'm going to be real careful not to let go of this and have it splash down and something awful happen. But this should be good enough to get at least hopefully a bolt in there. And it doesn't go in there, it goes in there. You silly, silly man. What I'm hoping I can do is just lean this back a little bit, get that hinge over, hold it with my leg. There we go. That is a bolt in. Just do that loosely for now. Try and get in bolt number 2. There we go. All right, that one's on. So that's somewhat holding it in place so that we can then flip this one down, pop a bolt in there. There we go. Push that hinge down, push the bolt in. Just hand tighten this. Nicely done. Same again with the other bolt, which I hope I can find. There we go, straight first time, look at that. Okay, nut on. That, my friends, is secured enough for me to get my nut driver on there. Now, what size do we need for these? Too small. Oh, Goldilocks, just right. Now these are captive bolts. They've got that kind of square profile underneath the head. So the bolts themselves will stay put as I'm wrenching on them. They don't need to be overly tight because they do have lock washers on them. There we go. That's that. Now this is the video connector right here, and that needs to go on the board thus. That ground strap, that big yellow one that I showed you earlier, that's right here. This is actually the wrong power connector on this monitor. I might have a spare female of this one actually. I'm going to go take a look, be right back. Well, dang it, I thought I had a spare female connector, but I don't. Turned out to be a male, so we are just going to roll with it. So first of all, let's find a home for this ground strap, which I am going to put on here. And it just kind of presses on there. It's got little teeth on it that kind of bite. All right, so there's that. I'm still really not sure what to do with these other 2 grounds. I don't really have a problem with grounding. There's plenty of grounding going on here, so I'm just going to attach them to the suitcase frame for now, if I can. Come on, you. Ah, nope, doesn't want to go. Okay, so I'm going to pop it onto the head of one of the fasteners for the speaker, because it's kind of snug and it's just sort of held in place by the thread. So that'll do for now. Let's get that power connector on. There we go, just kind of shove it in there. We should be able to flip this puppy up. Just give the monitor a quick wipe with a microfiber, because it is a little dusty. But again, I'm not going to go to town on this because I am hoping that I will find a replacement at some point here in the near future. So that'll do for now. Let's get this flipped back in. latch 1, which is a little bit loose. That's odd. That latch is good and tight. I don't know what's going on with this one. All right, I've just moved this in here to give us some support should we need it for getting the glass back on. And full disclosure, I had real trouble trying to remove the glass before when I had the monitor out, so I just thought, oh, I'll leave it all together. Kind of manhandled it around, and it was on this storage seat here, glass vertical, and it did fall off. It disconnected itself, and I thought, shoot, that's the glass gone. Thankfully, it's intact. And in the process, I realized how easy it is to actually get that glass off, because it just kind of fell. So here's the glass panel. We are going to offer it up to the hinges, and it's literally as easy as that. Would you believe it? Oh, I'm forgetting the old shroud here, which I also have a piece of plexi on to hide some of the screen burn that's going on there. So, if I may, just kind of lift this back up again and sneak this in here. There we go. That's a good shot right there. Okay, let's pop the glass back down. We should be good. At this point, before I get too excited about putting latches back down, I'm going to plug it in, and we should have tapper once more. And there we go. So we can now comfortably go ahead and get this top latch down. If we open the coin door, the inner lock switch back here will cut the power for us. And it's nice that we've got this cover here so that we're not poking our hand straight into monitor giblets there and getting zapped or dead. So up on the right hand side is latch number 1, and just up on the left here, obscured a little bit by some of the wiring loom, is latch number 2. And then we're back together. And there we go. There we have it. We are back up and running. We've done a pretty deep refurb on this. There's still a couple things I need to do. Clean up some of the contacts and whatnot on the control panels. Just make sure that the joysticks are in tip-top condition, both that side and this side. But other than that, we are fully functional. I am so pleased that Tapper is back up and running. I think I might crack a beer and play a little Tapper. Well, that wraps it up for another episode, folks. I hope you've enjoyed watching this one as much as I've enjoyed making it. I really enjoyed getting my Tapper back up and running again. As I said, I really enjoy this game. I play it an awful lot. This is a really fun game. And if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, share the video, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already done so. I did record some gameplay footage as part of this episode, but that ended up being about 10 minutes long. This video was already getting fairly long, so I've actually pulled that out. I'll make that available separately. If you haven't had enough of Tapper already, please check out the link here. It wasn't quite a personal best, but it was a pretty reasonable score. I guess all that's left to say, my friends, is again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, love you, bye.